don't. And there's a reason I'm asking this. The table topics portion of the meeting, I'm going to break the role of the table topics master into two different portions. Great. I see at least one I do and multiple I don't. Into before the meeting and during the meeting. Now, before the meeting, what should the table topics master do? The table topics master, generally, you're going to know the theme of the meeting. Most of our meetings, if not all, have themes attached to them. When you're preparing the questions which you're responsible for, you need to ensure that it aligns with the theme, which means it's preferable that it aligns with the theme. You're going to prepare questions that other people should not be aware of, and they're going to speak for a minimum of 1 minute and a maximum of 2 minutes. What type of questions should you prepare? Please prepare questions that most people can answer, meaning it should not be so streamlined, so niche-based that many people will not be able to answer it, which means you need to think about the question. Whatever question you get, spend the time to think, do I think most people can actually comfortably answer this? You don't want to ask a question that make people feel uncomfortable because they have no clue how to answer it. I tend to suggest that the questions will align with this. One, it should be succinct, meaning short, straight to the point. It needs to be very, very clear. If you have to explain the question and give a rather lengthy explanation, it's not a good question. Succinct, clear, and my personal recommendation, fun. Personally, I think the table topics portion of every meeting is the one that has the potential to be a lot of fun. That's my take. People have different takes for table topics, but that's my take. Because if you prepare the questions well, you get to hear such interesting and funny responses that just add so much life to the meeting. As the table topics master, you can be a huge catalyst for this. Know the theme of the meeting. Try and align your questions with the theme of the meeting. Make them succinct, clear, and fun. More people should be able to answer it easily rather than fewer people. These are some of the things you should do before the meeting. Now, take a look at the agenda before the meeting. Everything in Toastmasters, it has time allotted to it. How much time is allotted to the table topics portion of the meeting? Let's make the assumption that it's 10 minutes, for instance. 10 minutes does not mean you can ask 5 questions. Why am I saying that? You're going to have your own introduction explaining what table topics is before you now ask people questions and your conclusion. Really, 10 minutes at most is probably 3 questions you can ask during the 10 minutes portion for table topics. However, I recommend preparing more questions than needed because if anything happens in the meeting, for instance, you're supposed to have 3 prepared speeches, only 2 speakers show up. Inevitably, that means you have more time. Do you know what happens when you have more time? It's usually given to table topics. As I said, this is the fun portion of meeting. This is the portion of meeting where not just members can be involved, guests as well. And we usually want as many people involved as possible. If you think you can only ask questions to 3 people, maybe prepare 6 questions, just in case. It's better to have more questions than less. If you have less and you have to think on the spot, you may not be able to come up with nice questions, succinct, clear, fun questions that most people can answer. I've been to meetings where we called on guests, and the question that they asked that guest, the guest said, I have no idea how to answer that. It was a really challenging question. You don't want to ask a guest a question and they have no clue how to answer that question. This is what you will do before the meeting. Now, during the meeting, meaning just before it starts and during the meeting, what should you do? 1, please show up early. as the table topics master, it's very, very important that you please show up early. And what is the benefit of showing up early? Not only do you get to relax and feel more comfortable before you actually speak later on, but you have the opportunity to engage with members as well as guests. What should you be doing during this engagement that you're going to be having before the meeting starts? Network, very important in Toastmasters network. But in this situation where you're playing the role of table topics master, you get the opportunity to briefly inform the guest, first-time guest, about table topics. What is it all about? And it's at that point you should ask if they are willing to participate in table topics. Notes. If you tell them it's a scary part of the meeting, you are excited that you are the table topics master, that so you don't get to speak, you are most likely not going to make a lot of guests want to speak. You need to sell it to them. Let them know how much fun it is. Let them know that they're not going to be judged. They get to speak minimum of 1 minute, 2 minutes, and they can make as many mistakes as possible. They are training their brain to prepare for life. Because in life, you don't really have the topic you're going to speak on in advance most times. And it's this table topics portion of the meeting that will prepare them for such things. Sell it before the meeting. Get as many volunteers as feasible at that point so that when table topics come, it's not then that you're asking for volunteers. That takes up a lot of time. And note, you would have also prepared a very brief introduction of what your role is as the table topics master to deliver later on. And it's important, the same way you're selling it to the guest before the meeting starts is the same way you should be selling it to the audience when you introduce. When I attended a meeting earlier this week, the table topics master said when she came to explain what table topics is, that she's so happy she did not have to speak because she's playing the role of table topics master. And as soon as she said that, she asked for volunteers. Do you think we had a lot of people raising their hands or typing in the chat box that they want to speak? For the first 2 speeches, we had no one volunteer. At one point, I think towards the end, there was one volunteer, a Toastmaster. But for the first 2, no one volunteered, and I was not surprised. The brief explanation you give as a table topics master will either elicit more volunteers, more eagerness from members as well as guests, or it will drive them away. You need to be aware of this and prepare your brief speech to ensure that you get what you want, which is more people wanting to participate. At the point that the table topic is about to come up, you'll be introduced briefly, and you come up and you explain what is table topics. As I've said, you let them know this is the point where they get to speak for a minimum of 1 minute. Please stress this, especially if you have first-time guests in the room. Minimum of 1 minute, which means when you see the green card, you've met 1 minute. Let them know that they should not stop speaking when they see the green card. I have been to too many meetings where first-time guests, they see that green card, they stop and they run off. Explain it, stress it, emphasize it. I don't know what word to use, but let them know you can keep speaking. Maximum of 2 minutes. Even after you see the red card, you still have 30 seconds. Don't run off, conclude, and you're done. It's a fun portion of the meeting. You get to speak. We're all here learning, and everyone here is very encouraging. Prepare your speech well. Then you call up people. Ideally, names you already have. Remember, at the beginning of the meeting, just before it started, you've engaged with members and guests. You've penned down some names, and it's from that pool you should be calling up people. If you're late for whatever reason, or maybe members and guests were late, then perhaps you can ask for volunteers. My aversion to asking for volunteers is what happens when people don't volunteer? It takes up a lot of time. Worse yet, what happens when you call a guest that is not interested in speaking? Especially those guests that are really scared. I have been to multiple meetings, not one, not two, multiple meetings where we've called up guests that were scared of speaking and they refused to come up. Even after trying to coerce them with the, let's encourage them, they still didn't come up. It was awkward. And all that could have been avoided if we simply engage them in advance. Or if it's virtual, during the course of the meeting, before the table topics, send them a private chat. Are you interested in participating? This is what it's about, and get those names. It's at that point you call them the names you have them speak. Once they're done, call the next speaker. Once everyone is done, if you're voting in your club, you ask the timer, did everyone keep to time? And if they did, the poll comes up. Unless it's the Toastmaster of the day in your club that will handle that, then you don't need to do that. You simply conclude, which you should have prepared a conclusion in advance, conclude with a brief speech, call back the Toastmaster of the day, and your job as the table topics master for that meeting is done. In summary, that is what you do as the table topics master before, during the meeting as well. Any question regarding the role of the table topics master? If you have a question, you can raise your hand, you can type in the chat box, or it could be a comment. This is the time to ask your questions or give your comments. I don't see any hands up. I don't see any questions in the chat box. I would like to encourage us, if we're playing the role of table topics master, especially for those of us that do not like being called for table topics, please resist that urge to say, I am so happy I don't get to speak today. Prepare the speech that makes people want to speak, yourself included. If the speech is so good that even you that has an aversion to speaking, you are motivated to want to speak, most likely you've done a good job. That is the type of speech you want, that you're going to let the audience know what table topics is about. And I encourage you to speak more when it comes to table topics. It really does prepare your brain for life, because most of the time we are not aware of the topics we are going to speak about. And when you train your brain for that, you get better. Toastmaster Hioma, I see your hands up. Please go ahead.
I'd like you to give us a small tip on how to tackle table topics questions, something that will help us out.
Okay, Toastmaster Hioma, thank you for that question, but I'll address it later since it's not really tied to the specific roles we're handling now. Right after we're done, I'll tackle that. If for whatever reason I forget, please remind me, but I'll tackle that. Is that okay, Toastmaster Hioma?
Yes, it's okay. Thank you.
Great question. Now we're moving right along. If a question or a comment comes up for the role of table topics master, please, you can type it in the chat box or raise your hand and ask the question or make the comment at the end. By 9:30, we're done. Now we're moving on to the second role. And the second role for today is the role of grammarian. Just as people do not like speaking during table topics, a lot of us do not like playing the role of grammarian. And I'll ask that question. How many of us here do not like playing the role of grammarian? Please type in the chat box, me, just type if you don't like playing the role of grammarian. Myself included, I am one of those who, I don't really like playing the role of grammarian. Please type in the chat box if you fall into this group. Those of us that do not like playing the role of grammarian, let me see in the chat box. Just type me. And if you like playing the role of grammarian, type in the chat box, I like it. If you do not like it, type me. If you like it, type I like it. Because there's no option of silence. I need to know where we fall. Oh, fantastic. Ah, nice. Those that have responded were actually split, which is good. The role of grammarian, I have come across more people that do not like playing that role than those who like playing the role. And the reason for it is that a number of us feel our grammar is rather poor. And we're thinking, why would I go and play this role if my grammar is not quite adequate? I want you to change your thinking. If you think your grammar is bad, I encourage you to play that role. It will force you to work on your grammar, which all of us should be working on. Now, let me break the role of grammarian into two parts. Before the meeting, during the meeting. Before the meeting, what should you do? Before the meeting, you should come up with a brief speech on your role as grammarian. Very brief. Look at the agenda. How many minutes do you have? Is it 1? Is it 2? Is it 3? Your speech should fit within that time allotted to you. What is the function of the grammarian? Grammarian watches out for a few things. One, you introduce the word of the day. Why? Because you want to give us words to add to our arsenal to help us be more articulate and more eloquent when we speak. That's one responsibility. Two, you watch out for grammar, as the name suggests. Good grammar as well as poor grammar. Good grammar to actually applaud our usage of proper grammar. Poor grammar to give recommendations on what to improve. What this means is if for whatever reason your grammar is not so good, as a grammarian for that day, you may not be able to pick a lot of good grammar and improper grammar. That is okay. We are all here to learn. If your grammar improves, you may be able to pick more good grammar and more improper usage of grammar. And that is fine. Just make sure you all fit within the allotted time given to you. You prepare your speech in advance. This is very important. Every time you play a role, I cannot stress this enough. Every time you play a role, it's an opportunity to improve your public speaking. I want you to put that in your mind. Every single role you play, you have another opportunity to improve your public speaking. You prepare a speech and you go and deliver that speech. This should be done well before the meeting. Now, when the meeting commences, what should you do? And this includes also picking the word of the day before the meeting. You share that either with the VPE or Toastmaster of the day, whoever is going to put it on the agenda. Very important. Pick the word of the day. In some clubs, the Vice President of Education or Toastmaster of the day may pick it. Generally, I think the grammarian should have the primary responsibility of picking the word of the day. It makes it easier for you to know how it's used or learn how it's used and properly give examples, as well as pick out its proper usage. And why am I saying this? Many times, what the grammarian does where the word of the day is concerned is they listen for when it's used and they just mark it was used, it was used, it was used. However, the grammarian doesn't always mark out and emphasize improper usage. And there are two scenarios here. One, it's just used wrongly. Where it was used, it's wrong. It has no bearing. It's not even close to the meaning of the word of the day. The second part that I recommend is when it's abused. And what do I mean by this? One of the reasons we introduced the word of the day is that we can use different words rather than being monotonous when we speak. It becomes boring. You lose people because you're saying the same thing using the same words. That is why you have different words that you can use. The synonyms, you interchange those words. It's more engaging for the audience. However, when we hear the word of the day, suddenly, in a span of 1 to 2 minutes, we're using the same word 5, 10 times. At that point, you're abusing the word of the day. And I recommend grammarian. Let the speakers know, look, As much as it's good to practice using the word of the day, please don't abuse it. Even if they want to use it so many times, so they are crowned the champion for using the word of the day the most, encourage them to perhaps use synonyms, which the grammarian usually offers displays when they're introducing the word of the day. That is perfectly okay. I encourage you to let the audience know that they should not abuse the word of the day as much as they need to practice using this. Very important. Now let's go to the meeting. During the course of the meeting, the general evaluator is going to introduce you as a grammarian. When you come, you give your speech that you've prepared in advance. And afterwards, you go and continue your duty. And note, I said continue. Why? Because your job should have started from the very beginning of the meeting. Note, I think Toastmasters International actually stresses picking out grammar more for the prepared speeches and table topics. But generally, because we want to capture all the speakers, I personally encourage starting your job from the very start of the meeting and capturing grammar for everyone that speaks. Now, if you don't think you're good enough to pay keen attention to every word that is uttered, capturing good grammar, poor grammar, and the usage of the word of the day, then please emphasize the speakers above all else. Nonetheless, if you can, from the very start of the meeting to the point you give your final report, please pay attention to every word that is uttered at that meeting. You listen to everything that transpires at the meeting till the evaluation portion of the meeting. At that point, the general evaluator who leads your team will come back and call you back to the lectern to give your reports. When you come back to deliver your final report, please note once again, you are giving a speech. Every single time you have the privilege to come to the lectern, be it the physical lectern or the virtual screen, remind yourself, another opportunity to practice and improve my public speaking. Come with a speech. Introduction, body, which generally will be your report, and a conclusion. Introduction, you can create whatever introduction you want. Very brief. Your body will incorporate how often the word of the day was used, word of the day champion, improper usage of the word of the day, incorporate proper use of grammar, improper use of grammar. If you want to highlight certain quotes that really captivated you, you can go ahead and do that. That's fine. This is the body. And finally, conclusion. Note, you still have to be within the allotted time. What that means is if the time is really small, you prioritize. You will not be able to say everything if you're able to really capture a lot of things. If you didn't get much, then you may be able to say everything. But if you did get a lot, prioritize those things that were really striking, those things that were done improperly most of the time, or you think is just repeated so often in life that you wanted to stress it. And please mention the Toastmaster or the guest that had the proper usage of grammar, the improper usage of grammar, that used the word of the day, and how many times they used it. And the reason I say mention the names is so that they are aware of what they did. When you say somebody did this, somebody did that, if I'm not aware enough, I miss out on the whole essence of evaluation, which is improvement. My lack of awareness prevents me from improving. But when you mention my name, I listen and I say, oh, wow, I didn't know I did that. Oh, I did that. Great. I didn't even know I was that good. It encourages me to be better. As a grammarian, please put a name to whatever people do at the meeting. Positive, negative, it doesn't matter. It brings their awareness out there and helps them improve. Now, once you are done with your report, remember body, conclusion, and that is done with your report. You go back to your seat after handing control back to general evaluator. At that point, your job as the grammarian is done. At this point, I think we see, often than not, some grammarians don't count the number of times the synonyms are used. Ah, good. Perhaps they just listen to the word of the day usage. Thank you, Toastmaster Josephine. Please note, as I said, in my experience, many grammarians, they don't pay attention to the abuse of the word of the day. In that situation, I think they're not even paying attention to the need to use synonyms. So a number of them definitely do not pay attention to the use of synonyms. However, if they begin to say, do not abuse the word of the day, rather use it so it helps you become more articulate and eloquent, I think they'll start paying more attention to synonyms. I have been to meetings where the grammarian actually paid attention to synonyms and mentioned, when they came to give their report, this speaker used this word this many times. They mentioned the synonyms and specified how many times each were used. Those type of people exist, but because a number of us are just listening to the specific word, we do not even think about the synonyms. You are very right, but I think it's something we should start doing. That's my recommendation to help us avoid abusing the word of the day. Any questions when it comes to the role of grammarian, or comments perhaps like what Toastmaster Josephine puts in the chat box? This is all to help us become better. You can raise your hands or you can type in the chat box. Toastmaster Kudos, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster, for always there for us. So I just wanted to see, you know, the I think it's most difficult to see someone and when and I can't play Megan. And it's becoming so how to get Charlie the new people who just joined to play that. Thank you.
Toastmaster Kudos, I don't know if it's from my end. I couldn't really hear a lot of what you said. I just heard the end, which stated that how do you get the newer people that join to play the role of grammarian? Do you mind stating what you said earlier? I did not get much of that.
Okay. Can you hear me better now? Is it
I can hear
better
you.
now?
I can hear you better now. Yes, thank you.
Okay. So I say the role of the grammarian is one of the roles that it's very difficult to get volunteers. I think after Toastmaster of the Day, General Evaluator, it should be the grammarian. Don't usually want to volunteer for it, especially the new members. They don't just want to play that role. So I said, how can we encourage them, especially the newer members, to volunteer for the role of the grammarian?
Thank you so much for that question, Toastmaster Kudus. I could hear you clearly then. I would recommend that it's something done in conjunction with the mentors. The club should have a system where people get the opportunity to go through the different roles and they are not focused on just one role or two roles. Why? Because there are different benefits. In a similar manner where the table topics master has a responsibility of explaining the benefits of participating in table topics, mentors, vice president education, or whoever else gets to talk to them, like the membership, when they're doing orientation for new members, you should have different areas where you infuse the benefits of playing different roles. It should just become part of the culture of constantly explaining to people play as many roles as possible on a regular basis, such that the new members feel it would be good that I play different roles. And note, it's important that we know why the members join, right? We're not just trying to lead them in some esoteric direction that has no benefits to them. People join for specific reasons. When you know the reasons people join and you can see the benefits from playing different roles, then you can now tie that to the goal they want to achieve. I just explained the fact that the word of the day, getting the word of the day and introducing it, it helps us be more eloquent and articulate. It adds that word to our arsenal. Everyone needs that. You want to be promoted at work, you need it. You want to start a business, you need it. You want to get someone to fall in love with you, it's useful. You can use these benefits to explain to these people how it will help them faster, better achieve their goals. So I think find ways to tie it into different areas of the club and how it runs. And once the members hear this on a regular basis, it makes it easier, whether they like playing that role or not. It makes it easier for them to accept playing the role. A huge part of it, I think, with the mentors, depending on how the club is run. Does that make any sense, Toastmaster Kudus?
Yeah, thank you very much.
You're welcome. And I'm sure other people can give much better suggestions, but those are some of the things that I think will really help. Let me state this now, even though I'm going to answer the question that is typed, and I'm still here for more questions. It's already 9:33, and officially, please, we are done. 9 to 9:30, I don't like keeping us longer. Nonetheless, if you want to hear me answer other questions, you have other questions, or you want to ask about other roles, Toastmaster Ihioma asked on suggestions to answer table topics. I'm going to address that. I am still waiting behind, but I don't want to keep anyone longer than 9:30. I apologize for the 3 minutes I've stolen already. We are done. Feel free to go. Now I'll continue answering post our meeting time. Toastmaster Aisha asked this question. Is it the role of the grammarian when giving reports to pinpoint that a speaker used native language, whether the speaker translates or not in his or her speech, as an improper grammar? Yes, if we are speaking English. There are certain scenarios where we are speaking different languages. There's pidgin meeting and it could be a different language. If you're speaking proper English, it is pivotal that the grammarian notes when you do not use English. If it's pidgin, you need to translate that. And why is that important? When you're speaking in a mixed audience, not specific to people that only speak pidgin, not specific to only Nigerians, which is where we are nowadays, especially if it's a hybrid or virtual meeting. You don't know who is joining your meeting. It's simple courtesy. It's more professional to focus on the primary language. And for most of us, our primary language in our Toastmasters context is English. Grammarian, emphasize, explain the pidgin you used, explain the local dialects you used, whatever is not English. Grammarian, please highlight it. If the grammarian misses that, then yes, the general evaluator can mention it, or the speech evaluator. But yes, grammarian, you need to note that the language we're using generally is English. If it's the native tongue and that's what they use, perfect. But where a normal standard Toastmasters meeting is concerned, anything used outside of proper English should be explained in English for those that may not understand. That's a very good question, Toastmaster Aisha. Is there any other question regarding grammarian or table topics master, or perhaps a comment before I dive into briefly giving a few suggestions on how to become better at answering table topics? You are very welcome, Toastmaster Aisha. Okay, before some more people run away, I'd like to encourage you, please play the roles that you're not comfortable playing. be it Grammarian or Table Topics Master. One, stop letting those that are already good at it play it more often. They just get better, and those who are not playing it get worse. We master skills, we master roles by doing it more. Repetition leads to mastery. Repeat as often and as close together as you can. If you think you are bad, you need to play that role more so than those who are good or think they are good. So I highly encourage you. Table Topics Master, if you think you're bad at it, play it more often. Grammarian, if you think you're bad, play it more often. If you think your grammar is bad, play that role more often. Let yourself do research and get better in your use of grammar. Now let's dive into the question Toastmaster Hioma posed earlier on. She said, can I give a few tips on how to improve in table topics? One, this is a general tip. Just keep improving. I hope all of us here are people that want to keep improving and learning. Keep improving, keep learning, read books here, watch shows that will help you get better. Generally, improve and expand your wealth of knowledge. What does this do? When you're asked a question that you were not prepared for, you have so many options of where to pull stories from, where to pull context from, where to pull your answers from. That's a general answer. Second, stop being scared of table topics. Actually look forward to it. And why am I saying this? As it's Henry Ford, I believe, that said the quote, whether you believe you can or you believe you can't, you are right. One of the reasons many of us cannot speak when it comes to table topics is because maybe the first time we joined, the table topics master said, this is the scariest part. You don't know the topic. It's so scary. And for whatever reason, we just put it in our head. This is scary. Once you believe it's scary, you're going to forget your words. You're going to look silly. Guess what happens? It becomes scary. You will probably forget a few words. You will feel silly, not look silly. You will feel silly, and your emotions are important. So be excited about it. Believe that you're going to do well. One, just keep learning and growing. Two, look forward to it. Be excited about it. Three, learn to turn the topic to whatever direction you want. What do I mean by that? I am asked on a question on policy. If you were president for a day, what would you do to improve the country? If I was president for a day, what would I do to improve the country? I saw someone ask that question on TV once, and I thought, wow, what would I do? I had no clue. But that TV show was really exciting. In fact, by the time I was done, it got me thinking, should I join politics or not join politics? I've always felt as individuals, we can really improve the country if we all decide to have something more to do with politics. Now, while I might not have been able to give the perfect answer if I were on that show, I do think that in general, if we learn more about politics and we become involved in it, we'll have a better nation. I did not answer the question. I just highlighted it at the beginning and at the end. I turned the topic in my direction. You can do that to anything. They give you a topic, you talk about how you saw it in the papers. They give you a topic, you saw it on TV. Give you a topic, someone mentioned it, and you felt you had no clue, and you tell a story surrounding that. It's a skill you can use for any topic whatsoever. But you have to be willing to actually speak and try it out. And the beauty of doing something like that is it captivates people's attention. If you do that, first off, people are already thinking, he or she, they think they are smart. It captivates their attention. They already think it's funny. And it becomes such a great table topics. So notes, generally just improve your knowledge, keep learning, keep growing. Think that you're going to do well. It's going to give you a better chance of doing well. Divert the topic. I don't care what it is. Divert it to something you can speak about. And another tip that this is not as bad as I thought it was. Nothing is as bad as we think it is. Nothing, I don't care what it is. Nothing is as bad as we think it is in the context of speaking, work. Usually, we are more gifted in creating fears, creating problems that will never happen than in facing it. The challenges we face usually don't compare to the ones we've created that will never happen. Speak as often as you can. You visit a club, table topics, you raise your hand. You're scared, raise your hand. The more you do that, the more you become more comfortable and your brain learns. Here's what we need to understand. Everything is a muscle. Your muscles, of course, are muscles. Your brain is a muscle. The more you use it, the better it becomes. When you're listening to table topics and you keep answering it, your brain is learning. The muscle is getting stronger. And it gets to a point where once you hear a topic, you've never heard it before. The brain that is so strong now, it just puts things together and you are amazed. Come up with an introduction, a body, and conclusion. And all of a sudden, people are saying, why is Toastmaster Ihioma so good at table topics? They don't know how much you've worked out your brain when it comes to table topics. The working out comes from the doing. General doing, just improve your knowledge, yeah. Think you can do it well, be good. Know that you can turn the topic in the direction you choose, and then just do it. Do it. Everything you get better by doing. Doing. Those are 4 tips I can think about. Toastmaster Ihioma, is it useful to you in any way?
Thank you very much. Very useful. I like the part about turning the question around. That's the most interesting option for me.
I'm glad to hear that. It's a lot easier than we think. You don't have to make it so grandiose like some of us think. I think that's one of the things that push people away from table topics as well. They think either I have to be so prim and proper, I need to have a quote for the introduction, a quote for the conclusion. We've come up with these images of what it should look like, the ideal table topic. No, there's nothing that it should look like. You just speak. Sometimes you see that the winner, the way they spoke was not a professional manner, but it connected, or it was really funny, or it was something we could all relate to. Remove that fictional idea of what you think an ideal table topic should be like, and just enjoy speaking. Just enjoy it. I look forward to you. Unfortunately, I don't attend your club meetings. It happens on Sunday. I don't attend meetings on Sundays, but I hope I'll attend more meetings where you're there and I see you give more table topics. Okay, I see in the chat box, Toastmaster Kudus, you're going to declare free bread and beans at every booker if you became president for a day. Fantastic. And you can see that your constituents have asked for jollof rice as well. You can add that to the list. Oh no, you're not serious. You hike the price of rice. Okay. All right, Toastmaster. Is this Zoe? I am glad. I am so glad I was a productive use of your time. We are here every Friday from 9 to 9:30. I do my utmost best to start at 9. Those of you that came after 9, you would have seen that we were already speaking. We had started, and I try my best to end at 9:30. And afterwards, we can address other issues like the question that Toastmaster Ihioma asked. Can I give some tips on how to address table topics? Otherwise, 9 to 9:30 and we're done. We take 2 roles every week, 2 roles that hopefully are very beneficial to you. Is there anyone that wants to address any other role outside of what we've spoken on today? I am more than willing to the best of my ability, give a response. And those of you that want to leave, please, by all means, it's been a pleasure having you here. Go put into practice, improve yourself as an individual, and improve the quality of your club. Any other questions, you can raise your hands, you can type in the chat box. Roles, speeches, we're here to ask and here to answer, hopefully. Okay, I don't see anything at the moment. You are very much welcome, Toastmaster Josephine. You are very much welcome, Toastmaster Inena. Thank you, everyone. Please enjoy a very cool from my end. I'm assuming it's cool where you are. If you're in Lagos, it might be raining there. A very cool and restful evening. Enjoy your weekend. We have speech contests this weekend. If you're not aware of it, tomorrow, 2 speech contests. I don't know if there are more this weekend. Please join. It's a great opportunity to see what you can aspire to, hopefully be a part of, learn a few tricks here and there, go and encourage your club members, see other people from other clubs, other areas. Just enjoy yourself. Enjoy the weekend generally. And hopefully, if not sooner, I'll see you next week, Friday. You're welcome, Toastmaster Hioma. You're welcome, DCM Stella. Have a good night, everyone. Take care. Thank you for the privilege.
Thank you. Bye.
You are welcome, Mr. President. Take care. You are welcome, Toastmaster Bumi.